had gotten a letter saying that she had been disrespectful of Zelma, and Pauline was chastised for it, which was quite offensive. She was chastised by Jeffrey Drucker, and this spent a good part of our weekend spent addressing it. And Pauline wrote a response, which I think we've shared with everyone. But it was basically, rather than saying, and Jeffrey Drucker writes in his letter, in his email to Pauline, he states, change is long overdue. So they recognize change is long overdue. But he's defending the fact that our entire complex looks like it's got rusty rails and unpainted doors and peeling doors, and all that's acknowledged. But his only concern is that Pauline wasn't polite to Zelma, who's been in this position. I don't know if she's been in this position, I've heard different times, 6 years, 10 years, 2 decades, whatever it is, sheer incompetence in terms of managing it. And rather than taking it out on Zelma and saying, Zelma, Pauline's correct, she's brought you an issue 6 months ago or a year ago or however many times, and you addressing it, you're still stacking chairs out on the beach where people from, all age groups, whether you're dealing with, 5-year-olds trying to drag it or 90-year-old people trying to drag beach chairs, they can't do it. So we have this huge oceanfront property that Pauline is begging for rec management to figure out a way to get those chairs out there so that people can take advantage of the fact that they live on oceanfront property. And the response back is, Pauline, you weren't nice. This is what we're dealing with in terms of how we're trying to deal with this complex. You walk around this complex, you see the swimming pool, you see these chairs, the tables are rusted away, we've got royal blue umbrellas, royal blue cushions, tan cushions, all kinds of mismatch, hodgepodge things, kind of like somebody once suggested how we do our balconies with 3-inch wide balconies and 5-inch wide. We keep some in that, and we're taking hundreds of millions of dollars and destroying it. And quite honestly, Pauline was angry, and I am even angrier about this situation. And as far as I'm concerned, I wanted to show what this Catania Board can do for Catania and how it will change dramatically, and you will see changes, and dramatic changes to our value. And then we were going to move forward and try to do those changes on the rec common. Unfortunately, this incompetent board at rec has pushed it to the point where we have, in my opinion, we have no option now but to take over and change the common area right now on an accelerated schedule. We have to make that change. It's not, the timing may not be perfect, but the opportunity is here now. This board has proven itself, this rec, and I don't spell it R-E-C. I spell rec W-R-E-C-K. Because that's what it is. It's a complete wreck. It's like a train went through and smashed up, and nothing's been changed for decades. And rather than fixing up, and we have a 40-year plan, we have a 40-year restoration that has to occur at this complex, and rather than dealing with that, somebody's busy doing awnings right now and painting it. So it's more thrown out money. It's like, what are we doing with this facility that we're painting today when we still have to figure out what's going on with concrete? When we have to make changes here, why isn't the concerted plan, outlined? It's the same reason why in our lobby and in our hallways, they need to coordinate. Why isn't anybody coordinating at rec? The reason why is it's incompetence. The budget is $1,750,000. We paid last year in 2017. They had collected $1,750,000. It was $372,000 from each building. We pay in 37,000 dollars a month, and all our 4 buildings that there's over $120,000 a month that goes towards maintaining that rec. That poolside, everything you say costs us and the complex, whatever security or not security, that's $120,000. Where is that money? On top of it, there was an assessment last year of over 450 some odd thousand. That's how you get to the $1,750,000. I challenge anyone to find the $1,750,000 amongst that entire complex. I mean, and this is,
With that being said, it is a good introduction into the next item of old business, and that is to take this argument forward. We have a discussion of a common expense from our funds of $20,000 to Stephen G. to design a plan for our pool and patio deck, and we will leave it to the professionals to recover most, if not all, of that money by the time their nonsense is completed.
I will tell you, this was my idea because at some point we have to teach the rec a lesson. And, you know, the reality is this is something the rec should be doing. This is the rec's common space, and we are no longer willing to drop the lawsuit for nothing. We are now going to insist, by the way, we are essentially still willing to drop the lawsuit for nothing because this $20,000 really should be paid by rec. But Stephen G. wanted $50,000 to design a plan for the rec common space. We negotiated him down to 20. Stephen Millowitz negotiated him down to 20. Okay?
I'd like to take all that credit. I have to tell you, $1,000 was a bargain for this, because I knew what it would come back. Stuart refused. He refused to allow it, and he kept coming back and continuing on. And Stephen G. himself will tell you this. But we got it down to $20,000. But my point about what we did, we accomplished that a matter of hours going back and forth. This is not something that takes days, weeks, or months. On Saturday morning, this board got furious about the whole situation and got angry about where we were going in the lawsuit, and we took action. And somewhere by 3 o'clock or 2:30 in the afternoon, we had a price tag of $20,000. Everything that needs to be done here can be done quickly. There is no reason for paralysis. All it takes is open mind, people who can work, and people who do things. And it happens on a Saturday, and it happens on a Sunday. And it's, you know, your board was working on Saturday, and Stephen G. was working on Saturday. Okay? Everybody was working on Saturday. Bill works only 4 days a week. Okay? My understanding is she gets paid $7,000 for 4 days a week. Okay? There's $1,750,000. These geniuses that are the rec board, not including our two representatives, are busy sending us, you didn't follow protocol, which there is no protocol, and I can also send you a letter that indicates from Jeffrey acknowledging that he understands, you know, there was no way, we couldn't even ask them because there's nothing that tells us how we could ask them. So we did this the best way we could. We picked up the phone and we talked to them. And we said, this is what we're doing, and this is ridiculous for you to stop glass rails. And furthermore, you should be putting glass rails in downstairs. And what we would like to do with this Stephen G. design is show not only the 200 Catania units, but the entire complex, 800, what downstairs could truly look like and what it will accomplish. And again, it's not that I am looking to do assessments, so don't have people put words in my mouth that's saying I'm going to create all these huge assessments to do this. He's going to give us prices. You know the prices we've been getting back in terms of doing the hallways are less than anything we budgeted, or on par with the budget than we were doing a no-frills budget, but he's getting this top-of-the-line stuff because he has the buying power of doing this. And we will see the prices, what it is, and what's required. And we are talking about over 800 units that are splitting this. So I don't have the answer about, but $1,750,000 is being, wasted away, squandered every year, $120,000 a month is disappearing from us for what you see outside there. There's no service there, it's dirty tables. The fact that at nighttime, the way that pool is closed up for whatever reason it is with caution safety tape. You build a $1 unit that has caution tape, okay? There was a reason that they had to do it because there's liability, or the city of Hollywood said you can't have this open, and they had to do it immediately. Well, I know that since it's coming to my mind that it's since at least October, and I could be wrong, but I know it is at least February, that caution tape goes up every night. At this point, some incompetent manager or recreation board member should have had the common sense to look into purchasing it. And I can tell you this, if I ask Stephen G tomorrow, we could have something there tomorrow night to change it. But instead, because my child has a soccer ball on the sideline, Zelma's sending out security guards to arrest the situation. And I got news for you. My kid wasn't there this past weekend, and I saw videotape of different kids playing games. Because that's what you do. God forbid that at a pool you have a ball. Because who would ever think that children would belong in a pool and play? Now, I'm not saying it's a free-for-all, but there should be rules that this is, you got from 0 to 110-year-old people, and we all should be sharing this, and we should all be able to enjoy the space together. And it's big enough space that we all should be enjoying it. And there's nothing wrong with on a 6.3-acre piece of property that we can't have multiple activities going on. You're all sitting there, they spend a fortune on this technology that they won't revise, but everybody knows we can't use this technology to do a real meeting. The entire world, I could get on the phone with Europe. I was on the phone with Ireland today on a board meeting with people in Ireland face to face. But you guys, we can't have a conversation face to face. This is so ridiculous that our money is being spent. So what I am proposing, what this board is proposing, is that we take this $20,000, we get this design, it shows what it is, it will tell the world what domain the complex can be like, and we're due, whatever the cost is, we're going to get the number. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $4 million to renovate. I don't know, I'm throwing that number out. It sounds high to me, by the way. Okay, $4 million, though, on 800 people, we're talking about a $5,000 assessment, average assessment per unit. You've got a
over 10 years or longer.
Exact. Lance, who could sit there and get a loan for the $4 million that will end up costing us
let me also just
$800, $200 a quarter to have a luxury condominium complex that will probably increase in value hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what we are asking you to give us a feedback on spending this $20,000 and get this going, because if we're waiting for Maggie and Jeffrey Drucker and whoever else is there to say, okay, let's move forward and let's do something, we're going to get the situation where they're buying a can of white paint and they're painting the valet, which, by the way, with a valet, somebody should give them the English dictionary to know that a valet means you drive up in front, there's an attendant there who takes your key, and you get out of your car, and that person takes your car and parks it in a spot. That's not what happens here, evidently. What happens is you drive up, you give a little sticky, and he tells you to go park in spots 3 if there happens to be a spot.
True. All right,
That's our valet.
Is there any objections to this proposal before we make this motion? Any discussion?
Let me ask you a little question.
Yes, ma'am?
So what about finishing Catania?
We are in that process.
Because now we're going to the recreation and we're going all over. What about Catania?
We have extended our working hours.
Well, we're going to discuss that in a minute, but okay, first of all, we are going to finish Catania. This is getting a drawing, okay? That's all this is, right? We are getting a drawing of what the rec should look like, okay? We have 6 acres plus on the ocean that looks like a slum and has been left like a slum with $1 million+ collected every year from you guys. So that's all we're doing. And by the way, that literally took a few hours of negotiating. It did not take much time, and it was done on a weekend, as he said. We're getting drawings. And by the way, Stephen G. wanted $50,000 before we talked him down to 20. That's all we're doing. We're going to get that. We're going to present that to the community, but we are focused on Catania.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Why can't the other building cough up some money for this 20,000?
Well, that's a good question, and eventually they are.
They are, because we are no longer going to let them out of this lawsuit for zero. Right? And the prevailing party is entitled to their attorney's fees, and at this point, we're at least at $20,000 in fees. That is not even, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket. So at this point, when they want out of these losing lawsuits that they've brought, the price is going to be this $20,000, which they need to pay anyway.
Okay, I want to point out one thing, that the recreation rules on their material changes, they count a non-participation as a no vote. To change anything is 2/3 requirement, which is approximately 530 votes, 530 yes votes to make a material change. I bet you can't find 530 people to show up for anything except free food and wine. Nobody's going to participate.
And even that, and as I said, it's a joke, right? She does that as a ruse, because when she wants to do something like the fingerprinting, that somehow the board can do.
We didn't know about that.
But I was at one of these rec meetings. It was quite enlightening. I was trying to follow the logic. It was all over the place. There was no logic. Fingerprinting we're considering. Oh, steps in a pool, sorry, that needs 1,000 people to vote. Sure.
Oh, one other thing. Listen, George,
Obviously
we don't-
exaggerating, it's intending to put
You're
some
trying to
level.
get him disqualified as well. They think he's conflicted.
Yes, Judy.
Did we ask that if they would have a board meeting and bring up this issue of hiring Stephen G. so that we can have a vote on it, so we can drive people to create a
It's part of what we're going to discuss. They keep wanting to discuss with us. There's nothing to discuss anymore. They lost both injunction motions. They want to settle the case, no problem. Drop them, pay this $20,000, and let's move on. There's nothing to discuss. I mean, and the more they keep going, the more the price is going to keep going up and up, because ultimately they are causing you all significant damage. And
Right.
causing me.
Don't forget that our original offer to settle was $100,000. They wanted nothing to do with our $100,000. So now we're gonna spend $20,000 ourselves to try to convince the rest of our neighbors on what is the best path forward, rather than continued decay and neglect. I'm sure everybody's tired of the neglect and the wasted funds. We have one of the largest pool and patios in in this entire area, and it looks like that.
And in the past, Greg did have those drawings drawn up.
And nothing happened because they need 550 yes votes.
And they do not need that. They claim they need that when they don't want to do anything.
But they never put that up for vote.
Okay, with that being said,
So yeah, somebody make a motion to declare, I mean, by the way, just the technical legal mumbo jumbo, the statute has a list of common expenses, but it also defers to anything provided in your documents. The documents explicitly grant the board the authority to declare a common expense. So the vote is to declare as a common expense the $20,000 agreed with Stephen G. to design the rec plan. Somebody make that
all right,
motion.
I have a motion to declare as a common expense $20,000 to employ Stephen G. to present a plan for the recreation improvement. Is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Pauline, aye.
Stephen says aye.
Aye. All right, new business. Discussion of prior fraud by Blue Leaf and ratification of calling the Hollywood Police Department to begin the investigation.
All right, so, I don't know, I mean, I'll just start it briefly. We have proof that Andy took 3 money orders and change the name of Quatermain to himself. Okay, the belief probably, now I'm hoping that he did it only to money orders, figuring that he could get away with that. It is the first that we've uncovered. We do have insurance for this, although the amount we've so far found is only $2,300 below the deductible, but we've notified the carrier in case we find more. The bottom line is something, I mean, I knew when I came to this association that something was wrong in Denmark. Nobody doesn't send any owners to collection for a year. I mean, I have not seen that before, okay? Literally, the last board sent no one to collections, Blue Leaf sent no one to collections. So, clearly something was wrong. We have now found proof of at least $2,300. We've reported it to the Hollywood PD. They are going to deal with it as they see fit. We did this week. We only found it last week. And we found it, of course, because I sent a collection letter. That's the other thing. Nobody bothers to send a collection letter, so you're never going to find it. I sent a collection letter. He says, what do you mean I paid? Sure, prove it. Well, he does. He goes back to the post office, and somehow he tracks it down, and they're able to give him a copy of the name going from Quatermain to Andy Cabrera. So we've turned that over to Hollywood Police. There's also a series of, a list that Sean has of about 57,000 where
We've narrowed that down.
we've narrowed it down. We think some of it is suspicious. But part of the problem, frankly, is you have a lot of elderly people here that if they get another letter saying pay, don't know what they paid last month. And it's a problem, but I mean, we now have clear proof of fraud by Blue Leaf. The question really is how large is it? And if it's large enough, we may pursue a civil action, but regardless, we've turned it over to the police and we'll see where that goes.
Also want to point out something here. I have to commend, the particular unit owner. I'm not going to name his name, but he did not. He had a receipt that this was received, and it was a money order. So this was not like go back and find, the check where some of us have said we gave you the check, and next question is show it's proof. Proof it's paid. This was a money order, and this is somebody who spent a lot of effort to go back and track, and it took weeks for him to be able to obtain it because it was a U.S. postal. You had to deal with the U.S. government to deal with getting it back, and he submitted it back to us, and it really was a matter of, this was not any one particular individual that would have been able to put this together. This is a matter of that it was because of the work between the board and AP and Stuart and the unit owner, absolutely the unit owner, putting it all together and putting the pieces together. And, we're doing a lot of stuff like behind the scenes trying to see what we can come up with and not. And we've discussed this before about forensic accounting and seeing. One of my biggest concerns is that this goes way beyond just the receipt of, and this is conjecture, I do not have proof, but my concern is that this goes beyond just the receipt of money orders, as maintenance payments. Because I also want everyone to recollect that one of the biggest problems was that Blue Leaf was a complete disaster. And it became known when this was all coming out about who can run for a position and people, whether they had paid their maintenance or not, and were in arrears or not. And people who claimed that they had paid by check, if they could pay by check, they showed those checks. And those who couldn't, who said I gave a check but it was never deposited, that didn't fly because it didn't cash. So here we had this. My next concern, though, is what else has gone on in this organization. Are vendors being paid? Were checks drawn to Blue Leaf who deposited them into their own account and vendors weren't paid? Because we have a lot of vendors who claim that they weren't paid, and perhaps there's, payments that made. So my big concern is that this goes much bigger. But I do want to refresh everyone's recollection. And that what had happened was we had terminated Blue Leaf, and we put into place AP. And then in that famous coup, where AP was fired and Blue Leaf was retained, and there was also the point where Jennifer Hughes has also stated there is not a check that comes into this community, into this association, or goes out that she does not know about. And I would like to know what she knows about how these bypassed her with Andy. I don't know, but it's very questionable, is that Jennifer had claimed she knew everything. And I don't understand why Andy was able to pull this off, and whether Andy was working alone or with Blue Leaf on this. But it is really, this blows a lot, and I don't know if it just ends with the $2,300, but there is another $57,000 that's readily apparent that we have questions on. And we also are requesting that all unit owners go back to the extent that they can over the course of the last 2 to 2.5 years and see whether if they have those copies of their checks, to see whether their checks, the payments, if the name was changed, what account that it got deposited, if they have the back and front. A lot of it, some banks will send you copies of your checks. They don't send originals anymore. But just because your check may have cleared doesn't mean that it was actually deposited to a Catania account. So what we need everyone's assistance. And my sense is that the individuals who are probably more likely targeted were the ones that are not full-time residents. I may be wrong about that, but my sense is, judging from the list of, with the 57,000, it appears more of the individuals were not full-time residents. But I am asking everyone to go back to the extent you can and look in your bank statement to see whether there had been alterations in what account your checks were deposited to. We really need everyone's assistance to figure this one out.
I would at least start from at least January 2018 forward till when we take over March, so to January 2019. Check those 5 payments out first. I think that was the time frame in which we found most of the issues, or the discrepancies, I should say. The office will be reaching out to those that we've identified as potential issues. We have narrowed down that 57,000 number to a much smaller number, but there may be some other things. These are just the initial inconsistencies that we found. So, from January 2018 to January 2019, there are 5 payments in that time frame.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, the other thing quickly is we are going to be getting the glass rails. They're going to start going in on Monday. It was not known when this agenda went a couple days ago. We are also going to be increasing the workday so that the rails go in as quickly as possible, both because of the impending storm season and yes, because the judge told us we could. So we are going to be doing that. You're going to be seeing people, longer than normal because they will be working during daylight hours to get these rails in. And we anticipate that starting next week.
Okay.
Any questions or comments or criticisms?
Yay.
All right, let's make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, hold on. Sean, did you have any success with those photos?
No success. There's an issue with this laptop.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is in regards to the previous matter.
Here, if you want a microphone, just go to Marilyn. You want to give it?
I just want to ask how far are the attorney's fees so far, and since we won the lawsuit, are we getting the money back?
Right, so we haven't won yet, okay? The lawsuit's going to take a while to deal with. What we won is the preliminary, they can't stop us from putting them in, right? But if they keep going, this is going to go on for a little while longer, and probably a couple of years longer because cases take time. So hopefully they will decide to drop this, and we will determine, again, the rational answer, which I know some people aren't going to like, is if they're willing to drop this lawsuit and pay for the $20,000 in plans that they should pay for, probably we'll let it go, at least for now. As they keep going, we keep, they're dealing with some. They don't realize that as they keep going, we keep moving. the truth of the matter is we started offering them 100,000, and had they countered, it probably would have gone up because we were trying to buy the piece. But at this point, they're going to be paying us, and the longer they continue, the higher that number is going to go. But as a practical matter, if they come to us and say we're willing to drop the lawsuit, we're going to have to waive some of these fees to be done and to move on.
And specifically to answer your question, I was hired by your insurance carrier, so once you pay the deductible, pretty much litigating this case for a decade, for basically for free for you guys.
And I am overseeing it, but he's going to be doing most of the heavy lifting. I do think your deductible is around 10 grand, so you've got that, and then you've got me, but they are going to have even higher fees. This is nuts. And ultimately, hopefully they realize it's nuts sooner rather than later. But even after losing the first injunction and getting told by the second judge that their second injunction is going back to the first judge, their solution now is, well, we'll take a vote. Have you not been paying attention to what's going on? And apparently not, because they sent out some email about what their view of the world is, which is absurd. So,
Right, by the way, Stuart, that last email is not privileged. So.
all right. So there's an email that apparently Maggie, which I sent to, I guess, whoever she wanted to, from Darren Gursky, who is their lawyer, basically saying, oh, we didn't really lose, and this, that, and the other thing. She's also going around showing people, get this, a case from 1980. I'm not kidding you. Where one balcony rail was ordered removed after the preliminary hearing didn't go the way that, so she's hanging on this case from 30 plus years ago. By the way, even in that case, the time from the preliminary hearing to the final hearing was like 3 years. And that was in the 80s. So, and that case was different for a million reasons. But even if the case was exactly the same, all those judges are dead. So it's not happening. And, she's just out of her mind. But it is what it is, and they're going to keep pressing. Again, there's no reason for our board to meet with them. Drop the lawsuit and pay us $20,000 for plans you should have paid for. Those are our terms, and they're going to keep getting worse for you.
Yes, sir.
Stephen Jeffrey Drucker sent me an email last night that I should fly down and meet with you, meet them to discuss it. Quite honestly, I'm going to be forthright here. I'm not about to, foot a travel bill to go down there to meet with Jeffrey Drucker so he can tell me, we didn't meet the protocol of, we didn't ask permission, asking permission for something we didn't need to ask permission on. Of course, if everybody says I should come down and fly down and meet with him, I'll consider it and take it under advisement. But right now, our position is, and just the same way on Saturday afternoon, we negotiated with Stephen G. a price. If you want to settle, there's not a lot to settle with. But the deal is, not only, are we asking, for the $20,000 reimbursement, but at this point, I personally do not trust the rec board to execute any kind of change downstairs. And the only way that can happen is if the Catania building ends up taking over and orchestrates the end of it. Again, timing is not ideal for us because we have our own things going on. But this is first we've got to get the plan in place, which will be very quickly. Stephen G works quickly, and then figuring out all the details of it. And we also have a 40-year, inspection that has to occur. So I'm not exactly sure, getting back to why are we painting when we have 40 years inspection to go. But the point is, what I want is, I'm going to be honest with everyone here. And everyone may think I'm cruel and all, but it is everyone's home here. And I am looking out for everyone here. And I want Maggie off that board as president. She doesn't belong there. She is not, I don't know her background. She may have done a stellar job at a certain point, but after a while, we outlive our useful lives. And Maggie needs to step down, and Catania needs to take over the helm of this. And whether it's, we're just, if it's president, that doesn't necessarily, that's still one vote, but it gives a direction. One of our representatives should be president for the next few years, directing it. but we also should tie into it that, Catania, proving out that it can do what it does, should be the ones managing and changing and rehabbing this facility. That's what's got to happen, because we cannot trust them with 1.75 million of their dollars, and certainly with assessment, for it to just disappear and get, wasted away just the way it is. Because you look at downstairs, and I keep saying the same thing, it is a joke what that facility looks like. There's nothing's repaired, and we cannot just trust them with money, and it's too valuable. We can figure out, Catania can lead the helm and lead the way to making the change. And as we talked about, you will cost nothing over a life over 10 or 12 years with Lance arranging for a loan. And of course, there's going to be people screaming that why is he getting paid to actually arrange a loan? Because that's what people do. You can see when you get confidence, things get done.
Thank you.
Mr. Brumfield, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm all fine with you putting the new rails up and all that. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do with fixing all that up there. But my point is, I want my place fixed. I'm tired of living in a building where you're walking on concrete floors.
Your tile is on the way.
Why don't you fix the building and then worry about the wreck?
Your tile is on the way. The hallways will begin very
It's been on the
soon.
way for the last 5 years.
Well,
They've only been in office since May, so.
we've only had our turn for a couple of months.
Well,
Okay, so the tiles
I think one
are
of
on the Atlantic Ocean right now.
And the
Arriving in Florida sometime within the next week.
and the
Okay.
the workmen on the exterior, the exterior of the building, they're going to be working sun up to sundown or very near sunrise to sunset. So just remember that your privacy, was going to be invaded slightly.
My privacy's already been invaded.
So we
For
just
the last 4 years.
we have got to proceed forward and get this done, so we can tackle the next problem child, which is right out
We
here.
had
The other problem also is this-
AT&T in, and we still get holes in right over my door.
Yes,
And
I
I ain't got
understand.
AT&T, and I don't want it in the first place.
Well, there was an issue with AT&T, and that was, we got paid by AT&T to install, and after 2 years of delay, their man said either we're installing or he's suing us, so I told him to install. So,
I have a question though.
yes, sir.
We're being, we're not moving fast enough, or why are we wasting our time with REC when we should be Catania? You're sitting there telling us this, and a lot of this is, the board members here are working, 40-hour weeks, 30 hours, 20 hours, all days a week. Tell me your suggestion of what we should be doing in-house.
Well, the other thing also is that the 40-year certification is coming up, so this is a critical time. That being said, the plan was to only do Catania, but as they keep suing us and attacking, we realize, frankly, how incompetent they are. Look around you, okay? This building is a disaster. This board has been in place since May. We're going to have rails in soon. You're going to have tiles soon. The place is going to look good, and we have a 40-year certification that's coming up. So the REC needs to be dealt with as well. For the moment, we just approved plans, because ultimately, as long as the REC board